Hello there, good morning to you. Welcome to Newsroom here on GHOne Television. My name is Lantam. Let's take a look at the headlines. And as customers of banks affected by the cleanup of the sector wait to get their money from the government, we'll tell you the story of some investors and how they are coping their life after the exercise in a special documentary titled Painful Pension. Is it a sigh of relief, or is a sigh of relief imminent? President Akufo-Addo announces resumption of many Ghanaians' stalled projects. Ghana's stalled projects, crediting this progress to successful debt restructuring negotiations. Patients at the Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital stranded as oncology doctors lay down their tools. And reports of abduction and renewed unrest as Kenyan youth hit the streets again to protest against controversial finance bill. We've got details of all of these stories and more making the Newsroom Bulletin today. Do stay tuned. Thank you very much once again for joining us. The Bulletin is streaming live on Facebook, so join us on our social media handles on Facebook, X, and Instagram at GHOne TV. The Minister for Finance, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, has announced the completion of the debt restructuring program with the official creditors and Eurobond holders. Addressing attendees of a UK town hall meeting, Dr. Amin Adam highlighted that Ghana has restructured $5.1 billion in debt with the official creditors and $13.1 billion. The minister explains that the move has resulted in savings of $8 billion for the country.
I want to announce, for those of you who are interested in the debt restructuring, which has become Ghana's most difficult problem for the past 2-3 years, we are bringing it to an end. We are bringing the debt restructuring to an end. Last 2 weeks, we concluded negotiation with the official creditors, and we've agreed to restructure $5.1 billion. And I'm telling you, your government is good in negotiation. Of the $5.1 billion, we are going to make a savings of about $2 billion. As I speak to you, tomorrow morning, there will be an announcement that we have also concluded our negotiation with the Eurobond holders, $13.1 billion. And ladies and gentlemen, when we announce it, please read the details. We have negotiated a good deal for Ghana that will save us $8 billion. All this money we will no longer pay. We will have to use it well. And so the president has decided that we will create a special fund like we did with HIPC, so we can direct these savings to strategic infrastructure projects.
Now, President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo has announced the imminent resumption of many of Ghana's stalled projects, crediting this progress to the successful debt restructuring program and negotiations. Now, speaking at the Jubilee House during the presentation of credentials to 9 diplomats, the president outlined some projects that are to be completed because of the completion of the domestic, external, bilateral, and commercial bondholder debt restructure. Now, these efforts have provided significant financial relief, including $4.4 billion in cash flow relief and the cancellation of $4.7 billion of debt. Now, the restructuring is expected to reduce the domestic debt to GDP ratio to 55% by the year 2028. Paving the way for renewed infrastructure development and other initiatives which are crucial to the nation's progress.
This comprises principal savings of 1.7 billion United States dollars and interest savings of 2.9 billion United States dollars. The agreement therefore means that bondholders will provide 4.4 billion United States dollars in cash flow relief during the IMF program, in addition to the cancellation of 4.7 billion United States dollars of the debt stock. Many of the projects stalled as a result of the debt negotiations will now resume. The conclusions of the negotiations have been highly satisfactory and to some extent unprecedented in the history of country debt restructuring.
Now, a member of the NPP's communications team, Awal Mohammed, is commending the government on this initiative, reporting that this is good news for the country.
It's a good news for the country because when you check when we started the debt restructuring, when we announced that we'll be going for the external debt restructuring, a lot of the disbursement that were supposed to come in for us to complete some projects also stalled. So if we have reached an agreement and they are really to start the disbursement over time, and again we will be able to complete all our projects, I think it's a good news for the country.
However, private legal practitioner Kwame Jantwa is urging government to channel the available funds into water and agricultural projects. According to him, these projects will step up our efforts to drive and generate income that will aid the government in future debt repayments.
President has only what? 6 months to go.
Yeah.
Huh?
More or less.
He has more or less 6 months to go. Huh? Really and truly, what is his beef? What is his beef? Rather, we should be looking at how do we come 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028, when we start paying these our debts, how are we going to be able to pay? It's not doing infrastructure projects. Yes, that needs to be done. But we have debt to pay in the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years. When we start these infrastructure projects, it would not finish. We won't be able to complete them by the time our payments start. The one project that government should look at, in fact, 2 projects government should look at and look at well, very well, is water for the northern region. 2, agriculture. Let's start that agricultural drive where we can add value and also start exports. Not these projects the president is talking about. Yeah, the projects have stopped. Ghanaians have gotten used to it. Let's see how we get money back into the economy. And for me, to get money back into the economy, agriculture and exports. Because what does exports do? It brings in foreign exchange to get to a stage where we generate the income from here. Got to get to that stage.
Okay.
And if we don't, then that cycle would continue. The president shouldn't come and dilly-dally a carrot in front of us and tell us that, oh, money is coming, so we're going to finish all these projects. We have only 6 months to go.
The Minister for Finance, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, is touting government's handling of the Ghanaian economy, describing it as doing very well. According to him, despite the challenges imposed on the world by the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine geopolitical aggression, government has meticulously managed the economy, hence the significant improvements in gross domestic product and also the general living standards of the citizenry. He made the comments at a town hall meeting in the UK with Ghanaians living in the UK.
Even with the difficulties we are facing today, COVID, Russia, Ukraine war, the whole world suffering from these issues, your government is growing the Ghanaian economy. The Ghanaian economy is growing every day. The NDC says we are not developing, that nothing is happening. And I just want to give you a few figures on what is happening. So in 2022, the size of our economy, what we call GDP, gross domestic product, was 614 billion Ghana cedis. In 2023, the size of the economy was 841 billion Ghana cedis. From 614 to 841 billion Ghana cedis, just 2022 and 2023. If the government is doing nothing, the economy will not grow. And of course, it's not only the government, the private sector is also doing a lot. Those of you who are sending remittances, to Ghana, you are all contributing to this economic growth. During the NDC time, the GDP contracted. 2015-2016, the GDP contracted. In dollar terms, from $64 billion to $60 billion. What happened with the MPP? We took it from the $60 billion, and by the end of 2023, the size of the GDP was $80 billion. Nana Akufo-Addo and your government added $20 billion to the size of the economy. In fact, this year, 2024, Ghana is going to cross the 1 trillion Ghana cedi mark in terms of the size of the GDP. We are going to take it from 841 billion to 1.2 trillion Ghana cedis. That is an economy that is growing in spite of all the challenges that we are talking about. And this is reflecting in our standards of living.
The Labour Union is expected to meet with President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo today over agitations regarding the sale of SSNIT's shares in some hotels to the Agric Minister Brian Echampong's Rock City. The move, which has caused an uproar over the past weeks, pushed some minority members of the general public to hold a demonstration against the deal. But ahead of today's meeting with the president, the labor unions, we understand, are expectant of a total cancellation of the SSNIT Hotel's sale. Now, let's speak to my colleague, Abdul Hanan, who is at the TUC. He's joining us live with some updates. Hanan, welcome to the bulletin. What can you report with regard to how the TUC is gearing up to meet the presidency or the president over the sale of SSNIT Hotels to Rock City?
Lantam, can you hear me?
Abdul Hanan. Yes, I can hear you now, Hanan. Yes, carry on.
Lantam, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear now, Hanan. So I was asking what you can report to us with regard to how the TUC are preparing to meet the president.
We are currently at the Trades Union Congress, where organized labor is in a meeting before the meeting with the president. So organized labor earlier on 30th May met with the Labor Relations Minister, that is Ignatius Bafo Iwua, where they laid out their concerns to the minister. And that meeting was at the behest of the president, who had directed the Minister for Labor to engage with the labor unions regarding their concerns on this matter. But then on 20th May, Labour actually organized a press conference indicating that the deal between SSNIT and the Rock City Limited be terminated, and they don't want these hotels to be sold out to any individual who is a member of government. This also cited issues of conflict of interest and also indicated that the money that is invested in this hotel business does not belong to government, but pension money meant for Ghanaian workers. And so government does not really have any influence in determining whether these hotels should be sold, but workers of the country actually have the sole right to decide which investments their money should be put into to actually yield the needed dividend that would pay workers their pension when they retire. And so as at now, Labour, led by its General Secretary, is in a meeting discussing whatever issues that they had to discuss with the president. And we also understand that the meeting with the president is a closed door one, where the president would want to understand what the issues are with regards to the sale of this 6 hotel that belongs to SNIT. So Labour, the last time we met here, when we met the Elizabeth Ohene-led board of the SNIT, did indicate that, well, they've listened to SNIT, they've heard what that they had to say, where Elizabeth Ohene did indicate that they were still listening and the deal has not been completed yet. But Labour says that the deal, whether completed or not completed, should be cancelled. And that they also demand that a total restructuring of the SNIT board be made, where government or the president does not appoint the chair or other directors to SNIT. Labour is suggesting that the appointment and day-to-day management of pension money should be the sole reserve of the Ghanaian worker, and government should not interfere in this matter. So we understand that Labour would once again reiterate these issues to the president, and as to whether the president would actually listen and terminate this deal remains another issue. Who will be finding out after they meet with the president earlier, or they will meet the president later in the day.
Well, Abdul Hanan Adam, thank you for bringing us that update from the TUC. Of course, we'll be following this, and subsequently we'll bring you some more updates here on GHOne television. Now, we return to our earlier story where the Finance Minister, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, has been touting government's handling of the Ghanaian economy, describing the economy as doing very well in spite of the challenges that COVID-19 presented to the country. The country's GDP has grown exponentially, and the general standards of living of the citizenry has also been good. Let's analyze this a little bit. Joining us via Zoom is economist Courage Boti to have a discussion on this. Mr. Boti, welcome to Newsroom here on GHOne television. The finance minister believes that the government has handled or managed the economy very well. He alludes to the GDP growth. He alludes to the standard of living of the ordinary Ghanaian. From where you sit, looking at how the economy is, would you agree with the finance minister's assertions?
Well, good afternoon to you and your listeners. I must be fair that I didn't listen to him on the road show in London, so I wouldn't really appreciate the context probably he's coming from. Truth is, our nation has been in some difficulty from the COVID era, and even if you look at it in terms of growth and all that, we have been recovering steadily. Debt restructuring, which is something we've been encountering for the last maybe 1.5 or so years, is gradually on the home stretch now and drawing to a close. It looks like growth. What I read as attributed to him, he was referring to the IMF's projection of growth at 1.5 and we doing 2.9, a 3.1 projection for Q1. We doing, I think, 4+% growth for Q1 2024, and all that probably is what he's using to buttress his point. Which is yes, for the last year and first quarter this year, growth has outperformed the expectation. We have inflation also receding broadly. It came down from a peak of 54% thereabout to where we have it now. Reserves have kind of improved from under 1 month of imports to now nearly 3 months of import cover. So you look at it on those calls and you can see there's some progress. Fiscal administration, in fact, the fiscal adjustment for 2024 alone was over 4% of GDP, really. And so there is progress. But is it one that means standard of living is improved? Living is reducing. Is it one that means Ghanaians are generally better off? I think it's not so, and I don't think that is what the minister is saying. So there has been clearly some progress under the IMF program, but we can only hope for more. And I see it more like the starting point of what is to come. If we can uphold the reforms that are ongoing, and then putting the needed interventions that target the critical sectors that could drive growth, employment creation, and income for everybody. But at this point in time, we are still in that recovery phase, the fragile recovery, and we can't go to town celebrating the gains we've made so far. And I don't think that is what the minister was trying to do.
So, looking at the current state of the economy, would you say it's in good shape?
Well, I think I've responded to that earlier. We are recovering from a crisis. So in terms of optimism, it's not at its best. In terms of sentiments are thereabouts, like weak. And you can see that you can see the way people see sentiment in the pricing of goods and all that. You can see it in the cost of living people face and all that. So I wouldn't say we have a robust economy. No, nothing close to that. We have an economy that is recovering from the shocks of, first of all, COVID, and now the economic crisis we've had, I think, since 2022. We have an economy that is showing signs of recovery from there. Fragile recovery at that. And it needs a lot of the support we can get from all quarters, the IMF, the World Bank, from the government itself, and the various state actors. And we need all that help. And so it's positive that domestically, local investors or investors in the domestic market have decisively restructured their bonds. It's also the Eurobond holders and official creditors are cash flow release for us in the meantime, which may mean that could drive growth and employment really. So on those calls, you can say the West is behind us and we are moving into a phase where you can expect gradually we return to that part of stability. But I don't think our economy is robust at this point.
Very well, Courage Boti, I'm grateful that you have spoken to us here on Newsroom. Courage Boti is an economist speaking to us here on the bulletin. Now, we also return to our earlier story where President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has announced the imminent resumption of many of Ghana's stalled projects, crediting this progress to the successful debt restructuring negotiations that have been entered into by this government. These efforts, according to the president, have provided significant financial relief, including $4.4 billion in cash flow relief and the cancellation of about $4.7 billion of debt. And the debt restructuring is expected to reduce domestic GDP ratio to about 55% by the year 2028, paving the way for renewed infrastructure and development initiatives crucial for the nation's progress. Let's have a conversation on this. I've been joined via Zoom by Emmanuel Cherry. He is the CEO of the Chamber of Construction, and we'll have a conversation about this. Mr. Cherry, welcome to Newsroom here on GHOne Television. Let me ask what your initial reaction is to the president's announcement of the imminent resumption of projects that have been stalled because of the deal we've been able to reach with our external creditors.
And then back to your question.
Right.
Concerning the president directive is a plus that the president must be commended for, because sincerely, if you talk of construction industry, it's not just only the brick and mortar issue. It cuts across all the spheres of the economic sectors as long as the country is so much concerned. So in construction, we come along with the financial sector, we come along with the industry sector, the service sector, almost all the sectors that matters as long as the economy is so much concerned. So today the economy is struggling as a result of contractors not being fully on ground doing what is expected of them. So if the president has seen the need for the government to quickly inject money into the construction field, I'm telling you that
for this very short period of days or time to come, you will begin to see a turnaround in the economy as a result of contractors who will be distributing money, because we are donors, we are distributors. If money comes to the hand of contractor, it distributes it across all the 22 sectors of the economy. So it's a plus that the president must be commended for.
Right, so I guess that means you're looking forward, to seeing more money being released to contractors to be able to do some of these works that have stalled.
Your guess is as good as mine. Sincerely, contractors are not happy because most of them have, packed their equipment from site. Most of them have laid off workers. It has created a lot of unemployment as long as the employment sector so much concerned. So therefore, if today there is an injection of capital into the sector, it's a plus to all of us. But as we see, the government indebted contractors over 16 billion Ghana cedis. So therefore, we are expecting government to make conscious efforts to make sure that it clear those on the table as we add on accordingly. Because immediate contractors move to site, automatically you are expecting an addition, because we are going to work, raise certificate, expecting government to pay. So therefore, we applaud him, but he should make conscious efforts to make sure that the monies are dedicated so that immediate contractors raise certificate quickly, they are paid according to the contractual terms.
Right, but I mean, speaking of the contractual terms, we know that some of these projects have stalled for quite a while now, some 2 years, some 3 years, because of the challenges that the country has gone through. And in that period, we've seen the exchange rate fluctuate. And so how is all of that going to, affect the work that contractors will have to do, especially with regard to how much some of these projects initially, were going to cost, and, how much it will potentially cost around this time?
Yeah, in the contractual document, there are fluctuation clauses in there. And in as much as governments has defaulted in this, automatically most of the contract need to be repackaged, and then to invoke those particular provisions in the contract. So the contract you foreseen that some time ago supposed to be 100 million or 10 million, 20 million is no longer going to be the same, because the inflation has affected all the aspects of the service sector, the manufacturing sector. The goods and services have skyrocketed. Cement prices today is not the same. Iron rods prices are not the same. So automatically, most of the project definitely need to be repackaged, and then the prices will be a little bit upwards as expected.
Right. Very well, Mr. Cherry. I'm grateful that you have spoken to us here on Newsroom. Emmanuel Cherry is the CEO of the Chamber of Construction, speaking to us this afternoon here on Newsroom, and this will do it for the business segment. To some other stories now, and lawyers of Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, the Member of Parliament for the North Tong constituency led by Thaddeus Sori, have accused the Chief Justice of bias in the case in which the Secretary to the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral, Kwabena Edujemfi, is seeking an appeal. Mr. Edujemfi, alias Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng, had lodged an appeal in May 10, 2023, challenging the High Court in Accra's dismissing of his contempt case against the MP in court on Tuesday, June 25. Now, lead counsel for the MP, Thaddeus Sori, said events prior to Tuesday's court session pointed to Justice Senyo Jemefe as the presiding judge. Now, our court correspondent Mutala Inusa is joining us with more on this. Mutala, welcome to the bulletin. What more can you tell us about this case?
And for those who remember, sometime Okujeto Ablakwa is said to have rejected some court processes that were supposed to have been served on him. He asked it to receive them, saw some of them, and even booted some of them away. So that became a basis for a contempt application from Kwabena Edujemfi, popularly known as Reverend Kusi Boateng. The High Court subsequently went ahead sometime last year to dismiss that particular contempt application against Okujeto Ablakwa. They justify with the decision of the High Court. Reverend Kusi Boateng has moved to the Court of Appeal to seek the intervention of a 3-member panel of the Court of Appeal. Today, the matter was called, and immediately the matter was called for the notice of appeal. Lawyers of Okujeto Ablakwa has filed a counter application, what they seek to do is for the court to strike out that particular notice of appeal from Reverend Kwesi Boateng. And just before that notice of that particular application seeking to strike out Kwesi Boateng's motion for appeal, lawyers of the MP raised a preliminary legal objection against the panel. And in fact, the panel, which comprised of Justice Pamela Korantin, the judicial secretary currently, with Justice Efia Sewa Saribuchi and Justice Kweku Teria Akwabuafo as other members, said that, look, event prior to today's proceeding demonstrate clearly that Justice Senor Jemefe was supposed to be the one to chair the panel, and pointed to a Daily Post publication which sought to suggest that Justice Jemefe has been asked to hand over the docket. And today, coming to court, hoping that to see Justice Jemefe presiding, they rather realize that Justice Jemefe has been replaced with the Judicial Secretary. The panel or the lawyers of Kuyetua Blakwa are saying that it is unfair. It is not one that is supposed to see that justice is being served on their client. And so they are objecting to that. One of the things that they say was that if you look at the Reverend Kwesi Boateng, he is a pastor of the Chief Justice and somebody who is a spiritual father of the Chief Justice. So for somebody who has such an affinity with the Chief Justice to make a panel that also consisted of the the Judicial Secretary, who is the administrative head in relation to whatever happened in CJ's office, then clearly they feel that justice will not be served. So that particular panel should not be allowed to hear the case. The panel listened to the case and said, look, we'll make a determination as to whether to, on the objection, tomorrow, June 26th. But before then, the panel also allowed the parties to move that particular application from lawyers of Okujeto Ablakwa seeking to strike out the motion. So what will happen tomorrow is that the panel will proceed first to deal with whether to sustain the objection or to overrule it. Depending on that outcome, then the application seeking the strike or seeking to strike out Reverend Kwesi Boateng's application will be dealt with. So that is what has happened in relation to that. Okujeto Ablakwa and his lawyers, led by Thaddeus Sorry, say that they are not happy with a panel that is dealing with Reverend Kwesi Boateng's contempt because he has some affinity with the Chief Justice.
Very well, Murtala Inusa, thank you very much for speaking to us. We can now take a listen to Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa.
Well, you heard my lawyers in court today. I will prefer not to speak. Fortunately, the court will deliver its decision tomorrow, and 24 hours is not a long wait. So I would rather that we wait for the court's decision, and then we will speak to all of what we know and have discovered so far as this appeal is concerned. So if you grant me that wish, we continue to demonstrate our respect for the courts and our judges. That's all we'll say for now.
Now, the strike by the Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital oncology doctors has left several patients who had visited the hospital from Pioneer for treatments stranded. Majority of the patients left the hospital unattended to until the arrival of 3 specialists to take care of a few stranded patients. To the oncology department met an empty room as a result of the strike. Nana J and Abrokwa Kwame, who traveled from Wasegropong in the Western North and Ahafo regions for cancer treatment, spoke with the news team.
Doctors in Bebre are medicine in the Oma or Mojin Robo Somians, Avsomians, and the Omua Wedruvia, Quena Conum Wodro, and I don't bet your doctors and now Bema would date. Doctors and our Nisha. Now, Oma, a drusun there, Panic Kumende, on Bokosai, the Afro, Mambans, Mayafo, Uguswa or Jin and Nedro. The Aban, the Omia, I will say. Doctors in a strike. In the woman, date, woman, date, the woman, by only a dead drone, so there, Omoko striking now, Omodaswa, Omoshon. It's a dominant bar no crown. A boy so before was not ready where you do, and I do no me as they wrote 2 o'clock. The better was soon sat down the veterinary say, doctor ni wa obehwe wa ahai
so adesede bia betum
adesede ya de to Ghana bane omo bibi o mzamba bo ansese how bi na o ha o mo na onzo my cancer na mo oye hu aduro na kura no ahode no fo na obesan ajatum ndi esra ansese how bi o ha onwe na o mo aye na ye bre
mi fia for region and na mafoka efi ho abedru ha na sebia maboka is eka I mean yes sorry and jo I mean around 2 a.m. and what do you call it ye bedru ha but ye bana doctor na here because ye beboka ka and yes so your time krano near be waste your time be the referral by but omentimi anhwe because I said doctors no issue.
Now, management of the Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital in Kumasi has condemned the strike action by some doctors of the oncology department. 7 out of the 11 doctors at the oncology department of the hospital in Kumasi embarked on a strike Monday, June 24, leaving several cancer patients stranded. The doctors used the strike to compel management to fix the hospital's broken cancer treatment machines and particularly the water phantom needed for calibration on the LINAC. But the Deputy Medical Director of the hospital, Dr. Yao Opare Labi, said management had fulfilled all necessary procurement procedures to replace the broken equipment at the oncology department. He spoke with Ashanti Regional Correspondent Isaac Justice Bediako.
This morning we woke up to hear that a section of the doctors there have decided to go on strike, and the genesis of this is that as part of cancer treatment we use what we call radiotherapy. We have a big machine which we call the linear accelerator. This machine was down for some time, for some months. It needed a part. The part was procured. When they first threatened to go on strike, they presented what they call a roadmap. And I and another colleague engaged them and told them about the processes. And not only us, their own directorate management team had been informing them of all these letters of credit that had been going. And it takes time for these things to be done. So after a couple of meetings with them, they decided, initially they said they were going to go on strike on the 17th. And then they decided that they were going to abandon the initial roadmap and shift it to 24th, by which time, if the phantom was not in and the machine operational, they were going to go on strike.
Now let's get some reactions from social media with regard to what presidential aspirant Alan Kojetramanting has been saying. We know that recently he highlighted some of the key aspects of his great transformational plan, and one of the things that he said is that the presidential term that we have of 4 years is inadequate and needs to be increased to 5 years. Now, we put up a question about this on social media. Nana Ama Akwa has joined me in studio with some of the details of your comments. Nana Ama, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Lantam. Let's zoom straight into Facebook. They were saying a lot. Now, Rashid starts, it's a good idea when you have a good leadership in place. Just imagine if Nana Addo was still to rule for an additional 1 year. Then D adds, extending it for the selfish desires of politicians. Look at the hell people are going through during 4-year term. You want people to pass through the same for 5 years. Then we have Richardson. He was supposed to be the Zafanat Pania of this administration, but he has failed woefully. You were the Minister of Trade and Industry for 6 years. Honorable with due respect. What have you achieved? It's well is all I can say. Then we move over to X, formerly Twitter. KK says he should have kept that one to himself. Then Emmanuel adds, if you mean business, you can work within 4 years. And then we have here, imagine Adodi having 5 years. He would have even sold the national anthem for money. Then Kwesi says, wow, look, this is just enough evidence that this man had vision for the country. The term of office is not the focus of a visionary leader. A visionary leader focuses on strategies to improve the well-being of his followers. Just my thought, though. That's what Kwesi says there. Nana also adds, please change your mind. Why? Until the political system we are running changes, this is never a good idea. Change the system first. If we see it working after 20 years, then we increase the tenure. That's quite a long time too. Then Echo says, then no, you lost the 15 people that would have voted for you. This is what time will permit. My name is Nanama Aqua. Lantam, back over to you.
Thank you, Nanama Aqua, with your comments on social media about that proposal made by Alan Kojo Chairman Ting about presidential terms. I remember that President GHOne some time back at the end of his tenure said a 4-year term is inadequate, and he would also suggest a 5-year term. Now, 17-year-old suspected armed robber Joel Nyako has been beaten to a pulp for allegedly attempting a robbery operation at the Domiabra police tent. And here's the rest of the story.
The DD there with me and numbers. No, my number be almost friend, so none of so send all cano. Almost that who send a papa and a brother will become beside so free. Also, if we Swedru, a sense of Kaswa, if Sophie, Domiabra, if Sophie nurses. We don't know which is which. Looking at him, no, it does not look familiar in the community. Na ombe wiawo so hasi domia ba 8:30 so here na bus to Jano, which is the crowd left him there. So by then on so we ankofo be 1 2 3 bi no mo wash no na bus in the okọ to mo wash no mo bu na afi omo Jano to wa e be say like you want so they took him the shibaro no be Jano to e janche here so na by then na they say bi musu omo twem na ga ba ko so da bi evidence one and it mucha na so baako to the extent say or the evidence say I confirm mo mfe fiche na no be wi to mucha aso no mo de ko no ma bo no it's an eyesore.
Well, that should do it for Newsroom here on GHOne television. Now, before we go, 3 more people have been confirmed killed, with scores injured as reports of abductions and renewed unrests increase in Nairobi, Kenya. You can log on to starfm.com.gh for more news on this, of course, and more. My name is Lantam Papanko. Do have a good day.